The time has come.
It's happening. It's close.
See what we shall main, what we shall alt, what is potentially an alt or a main, what needs more love, and what we're definitely not touching.
Not with a 10-foot stick. Is that balanced Druid I smell? No, it's fine. But listen,
What? Shut up,
we kind of do this every patch because, funny enough, we do change our mains every patch. So, you know, we can experiment the love of the game and kind of get acquainted with all of the stuff. And we're going to get into it and tell you what kind of we see things and classes going into 10.1 and what we might be alting, and you'll let us know if you feel the same.
Yeah, well, we basically play a lot of these specs, and it's only natural for us to like rank them based on their potential of becoming mains or alts, and what we consider that, you know, maybe Blizz could do a rework perhaps or something like that. It's all for the bit. It's basically our thought process with this. So we're going to go through each class, and based on like the main spec we're thinking of playing, and you know the potential of the other specs within it as well, we're going to have a nice real rankings. This is no meta, nothing like that. Okay, this is just pure mains and alts for Dragonflight 10.1. Let's get into it. First on the list,
DK.
Death Knight. Oh man, okay, I have to talk about it.
Yeah,
because
go for it. It was supposed to be
it was
a main
supposed to
for
be
you.
my main for Dragonflight, and it was right up until I saw and tested the Outlaw Rogue talent tree, and I just fell in love basically. I kept it really close, but granted, I had like a lot more time dedicated for my Rogue and didn't really like gave the proper love to my DK, although I did play it at the beginning a little bit more. I still love to death Unholy Death Knight, and for me at least, it's still at least in the realm of alts. I know you find it...
Yes, actually, funny that you should say that, because I did level my DK also. Not have anything to do with the podcast. I always like DK. The thing is, I like a lot of stuff, classes, but I did go on a caster arc in Dragonfly, but I was like, okay, let's get back into the DKs, and obviously I'm a big proponent of Bloods and Unholy as well. I play all of the specs, and I'm actually starting to fall in love with it again. I love my DK in the context of the game, the way it plays, the way it feels, and for me, it is an alt. It was close
100%.
to becoming a potential main, but we need casters in our raid, so it's...
For sure. So we're still like an alt for both of us, 100%. Demon Hunter, on the other hand, this is, I think, my second alt level in Dragonflight after my Death Knights, and I played Vengeance, and I loved it. It's still probably my potential future tank still, okay?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because Havoc is actually doing really well in terms of his design, and although it doesn't blow things out of the water like Red does, it's not suffering the other issues, like unfortunately Frost and Unholy will be in 10.1 where they're a little bit under the radar, and I kind of miss Vengeance a little bit, but there's just not enough time. And for me, between the DK and the Demon Hunter, I'll probably play DK first. So for me, it's gonna go potentially, for sure.
Potentially, it's still there. I mean, as long as we have like all of these characters like leveled up to 70, at least one of us has them up to 70 and a little bit geared up. They still have potential over there. So
for sure,
Demon Hunter for sure a potential alt 100%. Oh, Druid time!
Druids. Tell us the story of the KFC, because I know you like to talk about it all the time.
Well, Feral Druid has always been a true love of mine, and I fell in love with it back when it was pretty bad, like in Shadowlands, but I still loved it. I love the fantasy of it, its mechanics. They added a lot of good things to Feral Druid in Dragonflight, and I also played it alongside my DK at the beginning of the expansion.
Sure. Yeah,
I liked it so much, and it is 100% an alt to be addressed at some point in 10.1. I know you love a lot. Boomkin, Guardian.
So Boom. That's the thing with Druid for me, because obviously I played the class.
I also healed. Remember when I healed?
Oh, that one time when you were in a tree for like half a dungeon.
Oh, man.
The thing is, Boomkin was supposed to be one of the main contenders for a main, and we'll see how that turns out. However, Guardian has disappointed me in the way that it's being addressed. The tier set being nerfed, because we knew that the tier set had a bug, but it was a bug good enough to put Bear on the radar, and now they took away the bug, which you probably should. You shouldn't let the Bear be propped up by a tier set, but they're not addressing the Bear at all. Not yet, anyway. I don't know if it's gonna happen in the next couple of weeks, but because of that, and I love Fair and I love Boomkin, but Guardian is also a main reason why I would play Druid, and the fact that it's so low, and I like to play a tank, I'll probably play Blood before Guardian, so for me, it dropped down to potentially, because I
I'll keep it to potentially, since you would have probably played much more Druid than I would have had. So I'll take it on your side here. But potential is still like in the books.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna play it on the channel and streams and stuff, but it's probably not with priority.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, Evoker.
Your former main, or
dude,
still?
So what they're doing to Devastation is actually really cool. What they're doing to Preservation is atrocious. And,
God damn it!
And I hope they're held accountable. Listen, Preservation was overpowered in 10.0. That was fine. You have to have one spec of the new class be overpowered, otherwise nobody's gonna play it.
It always happens, yeah.
But Devastation is actually getting some actual nice talent changes as opposed to what Preservation underwent during its talent changes. And it's looking like a more interesting spec. However, in light, and this is like turbo bias, by the way, you don't need to listen to me, but in light of the new cinematics, I just realized how cool dragons could have been. How cool, like
the potential was there.
The humanoid version of a dragon would have been. It just makes me salty. It was like, because you know, with the whole Firak and the aspects,
the visage forms for those were like.
It looks like a lost potential. Like, oh, I could have looked like that. I'm a dragon that transforms into a human, right? Something like that. But other than that, I had my fun. It was a new class. I enjoyed it. It's not main candidate anymore. The only reason why it was main candidate because it was new, it was challenging. But it dropped down, and even with the changes to Devastation, for me, it still doesn't feel. It's not even close to other casters like Shadow Priest, like Warlock, like stuff like that. So it's
no, so I'm taking what you said, and then I'm coming in and saying,
yeah, that's fair.
I'm very put off by how this specs is looking and it's animated. So I know it's a fun spec to play. I know Preservation is a lot of fun. It's very intricate and all of that. I love the rework that they're doing. For me, it's a big turnoff when I see these limpy ass lizard things. It's just not appealing. I'm not asking to make them like super buffy or whatever. I think like the whole structure of it and how that plays a big part in my book. So I like to
that's fair
to like enjoy what I'm seeing. Right? You cannot compare. You see that Templar's verdict coming from the back, like shoom.
You know, you're actually so true, because everything that Evoker does is so visual. It's so visual, everything that Evoker does, and it's kind of hard not to see it. The problem, because you have like all wings all over the place and talons and stuff. So, but when it's
not touching this, as the great legend MC Hammer said, can't touch this. Hunter time. Hunter. Survival back
so
in the books?
Am I gonna start with this? Okay, no, not even close. Survival needs a rework. Listen, if they do Survival the same way that they did Red, it's going to come back as a main for me, because I love.
Can you imagine that? That's
dude,
gonna
like
be
interactions. Like I feel like there's so much wasted potential with Survival. The fact that they put Aspect of the Eagle as a talent that you're never gonna pick because you just lose too much damage is a waste.
Yeah.
Having the fantasy of middle range is what was so fun for me back in prior to the tier set in Shadowlands when it was overpowered and everybody was playing it. Part of the fun part progressing through Sanctum was the fact that when I had to like do a mechanic, I could still pop my eagle and do my damage from afar. I had about 3-4 builds difference with Mongoose by focus, bomb focus. Now it's just pretty much all of the same. The talents are very boring, they're very bland, they're not making sense, they're putting a tier set buffing an ability that you don't really want to use, which is very weird. Not to mention that although I love BM, because obviously it's a whole class discussion, BM has still too many. Still, I think it's one of the only specs remaining that has 3-point talent. And it had, Assassination. No, I think they cut that off for Assassination. I don't know exactly.
Assassination is better. I'm not sure.
But even Assassination is not a good example of a good design spec.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you have the talent just makes it so annoying to do what you want to do, because BM has potential there. You can just summon like a gazillion beasts or just fire a lot of shots and bleed things out. That's cool. But I feel like it just needs more love for me.
Yeah, it definitely needs more love. Marksman, it's not like particularly shiny.
It's maybe the better one.
It is the better spec overall, I would feel. But I agree with the needs more love. I would have placed this into potentially if I would have known they're planning a rework for Survival. I have to say, I played Survival in BFA. It was my main for one patch, and I loved it. I loved the whole fantasy of it, the mechanics, everything before it.
Jumping in with a spear and just killing everybody. That's so cool.
It was amazing to play. So we cannot really put on not touching this, because we still have Marksman who we can rely on if we decide to play.
BM is still
Hunter.
really fun.
BM
It's like
is-
easy time, chill
Exactly,
times.
but we're both on the same boat. We love Survival Hunter, and we kind of hope
sure.
for a rework. And if that's gonna happen, you can bet your ass we're gonna see a party of 2 Survival Hunters everywhere you look in our content.
sure.
Okay, next up, Mage. So Mage for me traditionally was a very high contender for becoming a main, specifically
caster of
fire.
choice, right?
Yeah, it was always kind of my caster of choice. You know, I dabbled through all of them. I kind of loved Shadow Priest as well. Never really touched Warlock that much. Elemental Shaman, maybe sometimes, but I was more keen to enhancement. But
Yeah,
Mage
for
was
sure.
always there as a caster for me. Regardless if it was Fire or Frost, I do love Fire a lot more, especially in Dragonflight. This is, for me at least, one of the mains. So I mean, you say our piece, but for me, this has to go here.
You put it into the main. So the thing is, I approached our guild officers because I wanted to change into DPS this season, and I wanted a caster. Well, didn't really want a caster too much, but they needed a caster. I was like, okay, this is an opportunity to main a caster, which I haven't done in like over 2 or 3 years. And Mage was definitely one of them. However, Mage is one of my least played classes, so it was gonna be hard to get it up to snuff for a mythic progression, potentially getting cutting edge in just a couple of weeks. So I would have put it into alt, but it's definitely a spec that I'm going to keep my eyes on, particularly because it's one of my least played spec, and I want to get, and it's the one that I'm the worst at, and that bothers me. It's like, okay, I want to take on this challenge and see what can happen by eventually maining a Mage. I don't know if I'm going to main it anytime soon, but definitely going to play it more actively.
Yeah. He's a very ambitious man. He just wants to get that Mage crack going. Okay, Windwalker, Monk, not Windwalker, but we gotta start off.
There's all 2 other specs, man, for Monk. Listen, Monk is actually pretty good. And to be fair, with the Outlaw tier set that's looking really stupid fun, Windwalker kind of has something similar where you Sunkick and you go Nova. Who puts that in a tooltip of a tier set and you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna go Nova now. But that out of the way, obviously, I'm always leaning along the sides of tanks, and I always have a tank alt. Brewmaster is really fun. It's a very strong tank, and also, you know, you have the Mistweaver, which is getting more and more love, although still probably the least played healer at the very least from all of them. I still feel like they're missing the mark because I feel like Monk in general, all 3 specs are really well designed. Probably Brewmaster and Mistweaver maybe more than Windwalker and Mistweaver maybe more than Brew, because Brew kind of feels like it's playing the same thing all the time.
Yeah, and you have to remember, Mistweaver is super fun to play. Fistweaving has never been as fun as it is right now. It's just a blast to go through. Killing numbers aside or whatever, it's like if you want to go heal, it's definitely one of the, like, I don't know, man, just super engaging and bombastic playstyles out of
smoke people.
Yeah, and Windwalker, traditionally, both of us big fans of Windwalker. I've like alted like in almost every patch. I've alted a Windwalker Monk. So this is like without a doubt going into the alt section here. It's guaranteed to be played in some capacity. Next up, Paladin.
Let me say my piece, because I know you have a very
I don't
important
have
piece
much
to say.
about Paladins.
Paladins, so I always said that when they're gonna rework Red into being a tanky melee, I will potentially main it. It's close to being there. It's actually, the rework is the best version of Red that I have played. I haven't played all of them in the past. Marcel played a little bit more. But I also really dig the Pro Paladin specs, which the rework is strong. I mean, it's looking to be the best tank in 10.1, which it doesn't really matter too much because that's not really a reason, at least for me, to pick a spec. But I have to admit that for the longest time, Paladin has been one of the worst design classes. Now is looking to be one of the best. Holy's a little bit lagging behind, but for me, a Paladin is most likely going to be at least an alt.
Yeah, well, if that's the case for you, then for people who are like familiar with our content here, they kind of know like I've always been a main Red Paladin since like the inception of this game. So it's by no surprise it is a contender for mate here.
For sure.
Same story as Flame, like the rework. Yeah, it's, I don't know if I can go as far as saying that it was the best. It is the best version of Red Paladin, but it's up there with the WoD version more or less. Okay, WoD had a little bit more intricacies. Sure, you had the playstyle with the whack-a-mole and everything procced around you, but you had an option to play a different build as well. So I kind of. Dude, it's a no-brainer for me. It has to be somewhere in the main competition, right? So now it's like Fire and Paladin. We'll see what's next. Priest?
Priest.
Shadow?
Shadow Priest was a contender for main for me. And in terms of the overall class, because I have to talk about the other specs as well, I've never really vibed with Holy. I think Holy is fine. I think it's a nice healer, but Discipline just matches with me way more, and I think we agree both on this.
This was always my healer of choice.
It's not necessarily because fantasy, because I mean we can probably argue that Holy has some pretty amazing fantasy as far as a light infused healer exists. You are as much as an angel as any class can be in an RPG, which that's cool in and of itself. However, the playstyle and the rotation and the death is just a little bit too bland. Discipline is still really strong, and I did play it a little bit, leveling my priest, and it felt really fine, but obviously most of my time has gone into Shadow. Shadow is at a big crossroads right now because it's undergoing another rework. I love the Lovecraftian theme of Shadow that they have opted to end. The Old God theme is getting better and better rework right now. I think in 10.1, so far from my discussions with public, is the most balanced inception of them. I am on the fence with how it's actually going to play because single target being so atrocious is still a big downfall for me. So for me, Priest is going to be around an alt.
Yeah, similar story to me here, although I am leaning a lot more on the discipline side of things. Shadow is something that I'm too scared to like actually get into. It's just, okay, I'm too scared because there's always changes and everything. Holy, same story, never really vibed with it. I did vibe with it once, but that was a long time ago where you had chakras. I always say this because I love that stuff.
That sounded so cool, man.
Yeah, but discipline was always on the table. Like in every patch, if I decided to like heal something, it was always discipline. So I have to put it in alt as well.
Sure.
We agree. We both agree here. Next up, the Rogue. Well, you have like 3 beautiful specs. Sure, Assassination needs a lot more love, but it's still fun to play if you enjoyed that type of playstyle. I still like to play it. It's just a pain in Mythic Plus. Other than that, it's the fantasy of it, the mechanics, all of that are pretty dope if you, again, love that specific playstyle. Outlaw, we all kind of know how that works around. There's a million buttons to press, a million things to be aware of and react to. Very fun spec and very explosive, I would say. Bombastic in its own capacity. For sure. And subtlety, always my true love out of all of the rogue specs. It just, you know, the flow of the spec is really nice, having access to like burst windows much faster than other melee specs, being like mobile, having that whole fantasy of, you know, vanishing and attacking from the shadows and stuff. It's all there. I don't know if like you ever thought about maining a rogue.
Oh no, for sure. I definitely thought about maining a rogue a bunch of times in the last couple of years. There's been a couple of things that's been holding it back for me. It's just similar to what I'll probably talk about when it comes to Warlock, where I feel like right now my biggest drive towards Rogue would be Assassination, but I feel like Assassination for me needs a little bit more love because I love Outlaw and I love a sub, but I would always really like to go into Assassination.
You always wanted to be that assassin. I know. So we put it into a main.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'll definitely main it at one point because it's
still contender. Yeah, for me it's like a big deal because I've mained it like for some time now in Dragonflight, and this is gonna be hard, man. Okay, Shaman is an interesting topic because obviously Shaman has been the first caster I main Elemental back when we started doing the guides, if you remember that time. Yes. And Resto Shaman has been my all-time favorite healer. In all of our days doing dungeons and arenas, I always defaulted to Resto Shaman the first. I think it's one of the healers that I enjoy the most. And obviously Enhancement has been my first ever leveled up spec back in Classic, so it holds a spot dear into my heart. And recently I've been looking at what Elemental and Enhancement are doing because obviously I'm going to be DPSing, and Elemental became a potential main for me in 10.1, and I'm liking more and more how Enhancement is designed. I just was a little bit not interested in an OP meta spec because I don't feel like there's a challenge there to play a spec that everybody expects to like but Enhancement does take...
Yeah, that's with Enhancement. So that's why I wasn't really attracted to it this season, but I'm liking it more and more in the way that it's designed and the way that it plays. Not as much as the damage. Damage is fine, but I'm not interested in that. So for me, Shaman popped up into main in the last couple of weeks.
There we go. I played Enhancement back in Legion and I loved it to death. It was a bit, even back then, it was a lot of stuff to do. But since I've like played Outlaw, I'm not afraid anymore. So I can definitely see myself playing Enhancement. Elemental and Restoration, not really my jam at all, but I will take into account. Yes, I know you always healed on Restoration, and there was a lot a lot of time put into elemental back in the day, so I know the attraction over there. But hey, if at least one spec of the class is like very, very attractive for us, we're gonna probably have it in the main contenders. Next up, Warlock.
Warlock.
Oh boy.
Finally, I can talk about.
Which spec to play? I'm wondering.
So that's my discussion and my criticism towards Rogue and Mage for me is that I feel like Warlock in 10.1 is maybe one of the best designed classes in the sense that
classes. Right,
classes,
not specs.
In the sense that every spec does something different, and they're not like number one at what they do, but they're at least number 3 or number 2. And they're doing really well. So if you are, because you know, if we're gonna talk about what class to main, you're gonna open yourself to play Demonology or Affliction or Destro, and they all have similar but also different playstyles, and they all excel at something. Destro is really good in single target, Demonology is good in AoE and single target. Affliction is kind of a combination of both. There are different types of fights that these guys are gonna be good at in terms of rating, and obviously they're all, at least one of them is going to be really good in Mythic Plus, which is what I believe a full DPS class should be designed as, where we can talk about Mage, where Arcane is kind of a little bit in a weird situation, and Rogue Assassination is a little bit of a weird situation. And I think if they
Not the case to Warlock. All 3 specs here.
all 3 specs are definitely good in all content. One of them is better than the other at specific things. So for me, Warlock goes as a main.
I'm not going to comment anything here because I haven't touched Warlock, so my input here will be of no value. Okay, I'm just going to go with what Flame says. I trust him. All right, we still have Warrior here, which was, let's be fair.
Have you tested?
I've not tested it. I've seen it, and it's dude.
It was so
crazy.
dangerous.
It's crazy.
I had a talk with our officers, like, oh, listen, I know you want to switch your main, and we have this word that's leaving. Do you want to go? And it's like, oh, dude, this is such a hard question because I was all set on being a caster, but I was like, oh, Warrior, and I've obviously played all 3 specs. I feel like, I don't know if Warrior has been this fun in at least the last 3 expansions. It's really good right now.
Yeah, it's really good. And for me as well, like in every single patch, I had a Warrior leveled up and played it as an alt every time. Because if it wasn't Arms that wasn't feeling good, then it was Fury that was feeling good. If it wasn't Fury, then it was Arms. And Flame was always kind of like the protection warrior of the group if a tank was needed. So I guess a safe position would be an alt, guaranteed alt. This is like, traditionally this was kind of so this is the thing, like in Dragonflight, all of the places, like all the alts that we placed here are even better than in the past. We already played this when they were not that good, like in previous expansions.
Yeah.
Now all of these specs are real, or these classes with their specs are really, really good and much more engaging and fun and complete, I would say.
That's the thing with Dragonflight, and I think this is a point that we need to make, especially for people who are maybe not playing it and you're trying to get back into it and you're thinking like what you could main. The problem with picking a main or even an alt in Dragonflight is that the talent rework is more impactful than a lot of people may be giving it credit for, because the builds change so much and pretty much every spec is different, and they're all, 90% of them are really, really fun. So it's a whole different experience to play any other spec in Dragonflight as opposed to what it was in Shadowlands, even though you still build rage and spend rage. Yep. But overall, the specs are just way more fun. And it's like you're going into a candy store and you're like, oh, but I want all of it, but you only have like one mouth. So what are you gonna do? You have to like take it one at a time, and that's kind of how we're approaching it as well.
Yeah, and I hope you noticed that we didn't really focus on damage or meta stuff or anything like that. It's just something that we love to play, or we have played traditionally for the whole of our lives within World of Warcraft. It's really important for you guys that when you decide to main a class or a spec from within a class, the most important factor would be for you to like be super like engaged with it and have fun with it and understand it, and you know, just dedicated time to like play it while having fun, right? Not play it because it's like the flavor of the month. Sure, a lot of people will say, yeah, but Red Paladin is going to be flavor of the month. I really don't think so. I'm still expecting.
I think it's under the scope of it's being addressed.
Definitely in the scope, but that will not stop me of playing it. I've played Red Paladin when there was shit in raids and stuff, and nobody cared, right? I mean, I loved playing it, but that's the main thing.
It's a good. The classes are in a good spot right now, and other classes will also be in a good spot in Diablo. If you like Diablo as terms of content, we actually have a Diablo channel as well that we are working on. It's on the works. We have Diablo 4 videos, and Diablo 4 is gonna launch released soon. So if you like to see Diablo content, obviously in the same theme that we do, you can check it out with the link in the description.
Content, we love y'all. There's a link in the description as well. I think I said that already, but that's not important. The important thing is, after this video, we're gonna have the decision video to make. So make sure you look out for that one.
For sure.
Thank you for watching.
Appreciate it. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.